Thank you, Luc. We still have some minutes for questions and answers. Would you may ask some questions? Or?
Bonjour. Donc en fait, c'est une question pour Luc.
This question is for Luc. How much do automated combine harvesters cost? Or how much do autonomous tractors cost? Answer, I don't have the latest figures, but a combine harvester is going to cost $350,000, $400,000 plus the cutting parts at $500,000. How to justify this type of investment? Well, it's rather easy. We used an extra 4 combined harvesters this year because the crops were very good. May change according to the quality of the crop. Next question.
Moi, je voulais vous poser la question justement par rapport à ce que ça peut rapporter pour l'agriculteur.
What about the benefit and the profit to the farmers? Since the final aim is to have reasonable earning for the farmers. And what about the costs of produce in the short, medium, and long term? Don't you think that the farmers' earnings are going to decrease? Answer. Well, some farms can be highly performing, but the most performing farms are the ones that have the lowest cost, not the lowest, not the highest yields, but the lowest cost. The key factor, the key driver is the cost, and we know that the cost of farming produce is on the decrease. We all know that. What can we do? We produce commodities, so the differentiation aspect is not really something an added value to us. It's not something we are going for. We are not producing organic products, for instance.
Bonjour, donc pareil pour vous, Luc.
I understood that you worked with John Deere mainly. Can you work, or do you work with other manufacturers? Are they doing as well? Do they develop the same technologies and techniques or different ones? Answer. I do know of John Deere equipment. All the other manufacturers manufacture similar equipment. They may have different ways of doing things. Last spring, we were kind of frustrated with John Deere sales representative. We decided to buy a sprayer with someone else, Subtecas. I wasn't the one making the decision, but it's just because we were not able to embed it, to incorporate it to the John Deere platform. Due to the farm size, logistics makes all the difference. When the farm is small, it doesn't make that much difference. But when the farm is our size, you have to know of the quantity of spraying already performed. All this is being semi-automated with John Deere, which is not always the case with other manufacturers. That's why we went for them.
Sorry, my question is in English to Professor Blackmore. Like yourself, I like the smell of fresh oil and black smoke out of exhaust pipes and the screaming sound of hydraulic cylinders, hydraulic pumps. But on the other hand, those ancient technology don't seem to fit well to your vision of smaller, many machines, robotic machines in the farm of the future. Whereas the whole sector is driven by those diesel engines and hydraulics. Could you share some thoughts, maybe what are some missing links or in the enabling technologies towards robotization of future farms?
Okay, thank you. I think the question was really about power supplies, where we get the energy from. Well, fundamentally, what we've seen with the applying robotic theory or the thoughts of using robots is to significantly reduce the energy in the first place. So we do have a problem in agricultural robots, which we call the energy density problem. So although we see a lot of the current robots running with batteries, lead acid batteries and so on, that's not really enough for doing, well, some are capable of doing very long periods. I noticed we've got a solar one at the back here, and I know the one in Sydney, the Ladybird, is running on photovoltaics. And according to them, it's fully charged in the morning when it goes out, and it's fully charged when it comes back at night. But the bits that are missing, really, I think, are we've been waiting for fuel cells to come along for many years. The electric car area is growing very fast with Tesla technologies and Tesla batteries and so on. These are all being developed outside of the agricultural sector. But when they become useful to the agricultural sector, I'm sure we're going to use them very quickly. But that doesn't preclude us from moving in this direction now. As I say, the most important thing is to reduce the amount of energy that we need in the first place.
I just have a question about how this will affect farmers. So there's farmers who own the farm, and then there are farmers who work on the farm. So in my opinion, a farmer is somebody who grows vegetables. But there is a difference in how we relate to the means of production. So how will farm workers be affected? I think we can say it's probably very negatively. We're going to eliminate farm workers with this technology. How will farmers be affected? I'm not sure. I think it's unclear. Philippe was saying we're about to transfer decision-making power from our electrochemical algorithms in our brains to synthetic algorithms. For the people who invent the technology and finance it, maybe the future is sunny. So what do we do? Do you think there's a responsibility to campaign for perhaps a global universal basic income to all these massive people that might be out of work?
Well, if I may start, one of the things that I've noticed is that as we are changing, as these new technologies come along, we are making a lot of assumptions. And if I may say so, you're making some assumptions that I don't necessarily agree with. So maybe we should investigate that area. One of the assumptions is that robots are going to come along and do away with people. I mean, that far concept to me is ludicrous. I just cannot accept that.
I didn't see any people in the videos, though.
Okay, that's my fault for not... Good point, thank you. I will try to make sure that I include this. No, the thing is, we have these scenarios already in place. Many of us will drive cars or motorbikes. There are parts going on inside those vehicles that are running by themselves. You don't adjust the timing. When first cars came out, you had to adjust the timing on the ignition for the car. That is done automatically. The amount of fuel that goes in. A lot of these things are done autonomously, and we are quite happy to give the car or the machine that type of autonomy. But the real control of the machine is still in terms of the person. Where we go, how fast we go, whether we turn left, whether we turn right. In my view, it's exactly the same with robots. So there are current machines out there now, variable rate technologies, on-the-go machines that have got our values embedded in the machines, and we give them the autonomy to carry out highly repetitive tasks. The idea that we press a green button, we go on holiday for 6 weeks to Hawaii and just check on our iPhone that the bank balance has been updated. No, that's not right. Farming is an art being replaced by science. And bit by bit, as science, as we have more understanding, we can optimize that science. But there is still always the art. So for me, when a robot is going to be used, we still have always got farm managers. Always, always, always. We would never have a totally 100% automated farm. A farm manager decides which crop to grow, where to grow, what type it is, what rates they want to have. How those decisions are then supported then will be through the cloud, through artificial intelligence, through models, as we do now. How they'll be implemented in the field will be done with robots, but it is only going to be representing what the farmer wants to do. One point that you then made about replacing people. Now, there are two main roles in this area. At the moment, we have maybe machine operators, tractor drivers. Years back, we would have many, many people working on a farm. And the big tractors have already replaced all those people. Maybe we had 20, 30 people on a farm. Now we have 1 or 2 people. So the big tractors have already displaced all those people. I don't think that the permanent rural workforce will go down anymore. I think that we have reached the minimum amount, because whether we've got a tractor driver working on a tractor or a tractor driver looking after robots, we will still need those people. But the point you are making, if I may paraphrase, is what about the seasonal workers? And that is going to have a big impact. So, as you know, I'm from the UK. We are in a collective madness called Brexit, where people voted that we want to reduce the number of people coming into the UK, and that is then, of course, seasonal labour. But many of our vegetable farms, businesses, are predicated on seasonal labour, on bringing people in. And if that is then being stopped, then there is going to be a problem for farmers. But I think that the seasonal labour that is semi-skilled and highly repetitive can be replaced by robots. So those roles of people will definitely go. But the permanent workforce, I believe, will remain exactly as it is now.
And is there a responsibility for the seasonal workers?
Sorry?
Is there a responsibility to campaign for what happens to the seasonal workers?
That is a political decision, in my view.
To keep on schedule, we need to have only one question more. There was one here. Thank you.
Merci. Donc Florent Banquetel, conseiller viticole à la Chambre d'agriculture de Loire-Atlantique.
From the Chamber of Agriculture of Loire-Atlantique. Thank you for your presentations. Very high quality. Thank you, Professor Blackmore, for your impressive presentation and for the other presentations as well. My question is, we can see that man is going to have to adapt to robots. What about the landscapes? What about the environment? I work in vineyards, and the shape of the plots is extremely important. Now, is the landscape going to change? Hedges, the shape of plots? In France, we have the terroir notion, which is extremely important. Now, is there not going to be a new positioning of man within agriculture? So my question is Professor Jeanneaux, but I'd like to have the opinion of the other speakers as well. Thank you. This is an extremely interesting question. In France, We've had 1,000 years of peasant farming, people with children, with a job. They tilled the land because it was the only means they had to produce food and to breed. And they created the terroir, the landscape was the result of this economy and farming. From the 50s, with the Green Revolution, we restructured our landscapes totally to enable the machines to move about in the plots. We destroyed hedges, we filled ditches. The landscape of today is not at all what it was in the 30s in France. And the question you're asking is extremely interesting, because these technologies, what consequences are they going to have on the organization of the territory, on land management? This is going to have impacts, obviously. We can imagine that in some places we may not be capable of adapting all these technologies and to have a highly performing agriculture, because some places will be abandoned because we won't be able to reduce production costs, for example, in some regions. So there are some impacts at various levels and on various scales. It is difficult to assess them. Then the place of man in this technological world, where is it? What is it? With the Industrial Revolution, there were enormous productivity gains, but there's a lot of jobs that disappeared. The production of silk, for example, with worms, this disappeared totally because we invented artificial silk. This economy was extremely important, and it was destroyed in a very short time. Look what happened in Aubrac. We bred bulls and oxen to work all over France. With the energy and technological revolution, all this technology disappeared within the space of 10, 15 years. And we see this in all sectors. Now, the revolution ahead is different. We're not talking about machines deploying the strength of men. They deploy the intellectual capacity of men. And little by little, the machines will probably replace these intellectual skills of human beings. Now, we must not just look at the situation today. Let's look 50 years ahead. If you go back 20 years ago, well, there was no internet. Look at the revolution we've had with internet. So imagine new technologies within 50 years. So a lot of people believe that machines will take power. And some people go as far as saying that machines will chase away all human beings. We'll have to adapt. We've always adapted. But this is going to be challenging for very important balances. I don't know what's going to happen. This is a problem. Tomorrow, we'll go from 2 billion to 4 billion African people. So that region of the world will have to be fed. How are they going to adapt this new technology? Within agriculture, a type of agriculture with 60% farmers, they're going to go to 3% farmers. How are they going to adapt the new technologies to this transition? So what is at stake is extremely important and is not solely linked to technology. So the reply given was very complete. I'll go back to what I know, that is vegetable growing. Obviously, introducing a robot in a vegetable farm changes a lot of things because we are diversified. We had a lot of different crops, cereals, for example, lettuce lettuce. We have 15, 20 series a year. The vegetable grower has to be diversified. Nothing is standardized, and the introduction of a robot there, even if it is very versatile, requires a form of standardization and simplification. The producer has to anticipate the arrival of the robot. He has to change his time, working time, and production rates and so on, and the producers have to adapt. And they need to want to adapt. Some producers invest in robots and they say, well, no, I've already invested 25,000 to the robot. I want the robot to adapt to me. But with this type of mindset, we are bound to fail. We need the desire, the will to change our system. Even at our scale, we only have 2 to 3 hectares, and there's a lot to be done at that level to adapt. And the pair, the couple of the machine and the man. Now, are robots going to take the place of our seasonal workers? In our sector, that was a fear, but we are really at the other extreme, because to find seasonal workers to weed our crops on their knees during the whole season is very hard. We find them for one season, but they don't come back the year after. So that's where we are today. We have vegetable growers that are absolutely exhausted at the age of 35, and they stop the job because it's too hard. So robots would free the vegetable growers from those hard tasks or repetitive tasks, and they would have more time to look after their crop, to sell them, and perhaps the seasonal workers may become more loyal. So I do not agree with this idea, at least for my sector, for vegetable growing. Simon?
To just come back to the question on landscapes. It's a change in thinking again. What we've seen in the past with mechanization, with the tractors, particularly with the big tractors, is that we tried to make the fields bigger and take out the hedgerows. So what we've been doing is to adjust the environment to suit the machine. And I believe that is wrong. I think we're now at the stage where we can make the machines smart enough to work in the natural environment. So with the more intelligence inside the machines, with the smaller treatment areas, with being able to do just exactly the precise things that are needed, we should not change the environment anymore. We should make the machines smart enough to do what we want them to do.
Thank you, Simon. Well, I don't know you all, but I feel that we've finally we got more questions than answers. So this is amazing. We have a lot of things to think about later. Now we are having a lunch break, and we will come back at 2 p.m. Isabel,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.